All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the incredible power of modern GPUs. We're talking about the CUDA thread hierarchy. This is the command structure, the master blueprint that organizes millions of tiny processing cores into one unified computational superforce. So to get our heads around this, let's start with the basic strategy difference. You can think of your CPU as, a small team of highly trained surgeons. Each one is a genius, performing really complex operations one after another. A GPU, though, that's a completely different game. It's a massive army of workers. Each worker does a really simple, repetitive task, but, and here's the key, they all do it at the exact same time. It's the sheer number of them that gets these huge jobs done at unbelievable speeds. And that, right there, brings us to the central problem. I mean, think about it. If you have an army of 1 million workers, you can't just run around giving individual orders to each one. You'd spend all your time just trying to manage them. So how in the world does CUDA solve this massive coordination problem? Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We're going to look at this command structure in 5 parts. We'll start with the core philosophy and go all the way to the future of how these things work together. Let's get to it. So the first big idea, and it's a really important one, is that you don't talk to the individual cores. You just don't. Instead, you create this high-level, abstract plan of all the work that needs to be done. You basically define the mission, and you let the hardware figure out how to assign its available troops to get that mission done. And this right here leads to one of the most powerful concepts in GPU programming, automatic scalability. It's kind of magical. You write your code one time, defining the total size of your problem. Then, the CUDA system looks at whatever GPU you're running on, could be a little one in your laptop, could be an absolute monster in a data center, and it automatically carves up the work to fit the hardware you have. It's amazing. All right, let's move on to the blueprint itself. So how is this army of work actually organized? Well, CUDA arranges everything into this really clean 3-level hierarchy. At the very top, you have the grid. The grid is the whole shebang, the entire mission you want to accomplish. And when I say entire, I really mean it. These things can be mind-bogglingly huge. Just the X dimension alone can have over 2 billion blocks. It's just massive. Now that huge grid is broken down into thread blocks. You can think of a block as a battalion in our army. And this is a super important unit because all of the threads, all the soldiers inside a single block can actually work together. They can talk to each other, they can share data using really fast on-chip memory. But, and this is a hard rule, a block can never have more than 1,024 threads. That's the limit. And finally, we get down to the individual soldier, the thread. This is the smallest, most fundamental unit of work. It's designed to do one simple thing. And the whole point here is that every single thread in your giant army needs a totally unique assignment, so it doesn't end up doing the exact same work as the guy next to him. So how does that individual soldier in this massive army figure out its specific job? How does it know which pixel to color or which number in an array to process? Well, it all comes down to its location, its address, within that 3-level hierarchy. See, every single thread has access to these built-in variables that work like a personal GPS. blockIdx tells it which battalion it's in. threadIdx tells it its exact position inside that battalion. And then blockDim and gridDim tell it the overall size and shape of the army. In using these variables, every thread can figure out its own unique, global ID with a surprisingly simple formula. For a simple 1D problem, like a long list of numbers, you just take your block's ID, multiply it by how many threads are in a block. That gives you the starting point for your group. Then you just add your own local ID within that group, and voila! You have a unique ID that points you to your specific piece of data. Okay, now this is absolutely crucial. This is a pro tip you have to remember. Because we often launch a grid that's slightly bigger than our actual data, you must have a boundary check. This little if statement right here is the safety rail that stops any extra threads from running off and scribbling over memory they're not supposed to touch. It's probably the single most important habit for writing safe, correct CUDA code. So now we know how the threads are organized in the software, in the blueprint. But now let's peel back another layer and look at how the hardware actually executes them. Because this is where the real mind-bending speed comes from. So how does the hardware wrangle all these millions of threads? It all comes down to one magic number, 32. On an NVIDIA GPU, threads don't run around by themselves. The hardware groups them together in squads of 32. And this group of 32 threads has a name. It's called a warp. So inside a block, threads 0 to 31 make up the first warp, 32 to 63 make up the second, and so on. And here's the kicker. All 32 threads in a warp are physically locked together. They execute the exact same instruction at the exact same moment. This is the true, fundamental unit of execution on the silicon itself. And this is why understanding warps is everything for performance. When all 32 threads in a warp need to grab 32 items from memory that are all right next to each other, the hardware can grab them all in one single trip. That's called a coalesced access, and it is blazing fast. But if those threads need data that's scattered all over memory, the hardware has to make a bunch of slow, separate trips. We're talking about the difference between running at, say, 50 gigabytes per second and an absolutely insane 1,500 gigabytes per second. It's a huge deal. So this whole model, grids, blocks, warps, it's been the foundation of GPU computing for over a decade, and it's worked incredibly well. But as problems get bigger and bigger, our army of cores needs new, even smarter ways to collaborate. And that brings us to the latest evolution, the thread block cluster. This was introduced in the newer GPU architectures, and it adds a whole new layer to our hierarchy. A cluster is a group of blocks, so think of it as a brigade made up of our battalions that are all guaranteed to run on the same physical chunk of the GPU. And this lets them work together more closely than was ever possible before. So why was this necessary? Well, in the past, if one block of threads needed data from another block, it had to do this really long, slow round trip all the way out to the main GPU memory. But with clusters, blocks can now talk directly to each other's super-fast local memory. This is a complete game changer for algorithms that need more complex teamwork, because it keeps all that important data right there on the chip, right next to the action. Okay, let's bring it all home. What are the key takeaways? First, that classic formula, blockIdx times blockDim plus threadIdx is your best friend for getting a unique ID. Second, to get that crazy memory speed, always line up your threads with consecutive data. Third, remember that hard limit. No more than 1,024 threads per block. Fourth, a really good practice is to use a grid stride loop. That's a little loop inside your code that lets one thread handle multiple pieces of data. It makes your code super flexible and scalable. And finally, if you're on the newest hardware, start looking into thread block clusters to take cooperation to the next level. Nail these, and you're well on your way to writing some seriously fast code. And that brings us to the final question to think about. This whole hierarchy we've talked about has evolved over time to solve one fundamental problem. Moving data is the bottleneck. So as the data sets we work with get exponentially larger, the real question is, what new command structures will we need to invent to organize the even bigger computational armies of the future?